Okay, I am honestly going back and forth over whether I should even shoot this video, because for the most part, well, thankfully to Hasbro, there is a little bit more to talk about today, but the original concept for this video was to talk about 4 images that Bandai put out for some future SH Figuarts Star Wars releases, or re-releases. I don't even know what the proper term is. It's mostly reuse, but there are some small little changes. As I sit staring at these pictures, I find some things interesting. Or maybe I'm just looking at them like, do I need this? Do I not need this? And the best way for me to sort that all out in my brain is to get in front of the camera and just kind of... This ain't a fast forward by any means. Like I said, 4 images. 1 image of each figure that they're going to reissue. But I'm probably going to dig way too deep. In fact, if you got better things to do today, then go do them. I am going to do this again during the rewind this weekend. Just quick, like I tend to do there. But for this, I feel like I'm wasting time, but this is what I do. If you'd rather have the condensed version in about 4 days, then go ahead, mow your lawn, go do something better, be more productive with your time. I don't mind. It's not going to hurt my feelings. We will start with the Stormtrooper because it's the most obvious. This is complete reuse of their last A New Hope Stormtrooper, which is good because that took several releases to refine, to get up to the standards that we expect when it says SH Figuarts on the package. The original Stormtrooper, which I had forgotten had come out before Luke and Darth Maul. Luke and Darth Maul were my gateways into the whole import action figure thing. I was like, oh, those are spectacular. But the Darth Vader, which we'll get to, and the Stormtrooper that came out before that, not so much. Then they came around with the Rogue One Stormtrooper, and I may be off on some of these, the release dates and stuff, because it's been years. But the Rogue One was definitely an improvement over the original figure. It seems like I skipped on those, because I still found certain things like in the helmet. It's hard to describe how it's off, but it's one of those things you've looked at it for 40 years and think it's off. There's something slightly wrong with it. But then they came out with A New Hope Stormtrooper, which tweaked a few things, improved even more, and that's the one I grabbed because it looks good, or looked good, several years ago. And it wasn't just the helmet either, it was also the abs. We see that changing up a bit between Stormtrooper versions from movie to movie to movie. But now they're going to do a reissue of that Stormtrooper, and it's that last mold. And again, that may be my favorite. Standing it up next to the Bandai model kit and the Hasbro Black Series, you can pick and choose. It depends on your situation and your personal preferences. If you don't mind building them, oh, the Bandai model kit is still one of my favorites. It reminds me so much of the vintage figure, but actually looking like what we saw in the movie. It's just a little tall for my taste. I mean, I don't mind. Stormtroopers come in different sizes, so it's still on the shelf. Then the Hasbro, $25, I think, was the last release with the Mandalorian Stormtroopers, or has there been another release? I can't keep up. There's been a few, but their latest mold for that is also spectacular. But there's just something about the SH Figuarts that's more crisp overall. Very, almost too symmetrical. I will say that one of the charming things about the original trilogy, or the original designs, is that there is some slight asymmetry. And not just the obvious things like the knee pads or the things on the abs. The actual eyes and the helmet, if you ever talk to somebody in the 501st, they will point out everything that's slightly off from side to side. And if you put it in a mirror, it looks wrong. You know, like your own face, like human features. That is just a long way around to say, again, that the one they are going to reissue, at least according to the one picture we have, is complete reuse of the A New Hope Stormtrooper, just with green lenses. This is what we're getting, or this is what we should be getting, because I've run into some other discrepancies. Like when they showed the image for their reissue R2-D2, I went back and found the promo images for the first release of the SH Figuarts R2-D2. If you look real close, the main eye there is actually smaller than what we're seeing in the new promo image. And I thought, oh, there's our slight tweak. They changed the sculpt to be a bit more accurate. But then I grabbed my SH Figuarts R2-D2 off the shelf. Come to find out, they had actually changed that before that figure released. So there's a difference between the promo image and the released product in our favor, as a positive. This image also shows the covers for Kenny Baker's feet that go down into the legs. I'd forgotten that the original release came with that too, so that's not a tweak either. I believe the only change here is the removal of the panel lining, which made the first one look slightly dirty, but not Star Wars dirty. It was more to accentuate the details. I think this is trying to reproduce the end of the movie, the celebration, the awards ceremony, where they are super clean. But I will say, if you missed out on that first release, this is still my favorite R2-D2, even though Hasbro has made great strides with that re-release. It is perfect size and everything. Again, it comes down to price. If you want to spend $25, whoosh, grab the Hasbro. If you want a little something extra, grab the Bandai. And it's not just for the covers and the extras. Hopefully this still comes with the clickies. I think it was one of the blue panels, and then the thing on the back would change the colors of the circles on the front and back of the dome. That's just neat. It's not a huge deal, and something that I wouldn't have missed if I never knew it existed, but now that I know it exists, yeah, every time I pick that thing up, click, 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 click. The reason I bring up the awards ceremony is because looking at the reissue of their SH Figuarts C-3PO, I thought, well, the big difference there is the shinier gold. And that is true, but once again, I went back to the original promo image, and it doesn't match what we actually got. The original promotional image does show a shinier gold, but then I look over at the figure, and what we got was like a deeper, darker, duller gold. I'm not saying that in a bad way. I think that's actually more accurate to what we see a lot more in the movies. I'd forgotten about that, or I didn't even realize it when that figure came out. Looking at the promo images for the Force Awakens C-3PO, it seems they changed the shine and the sheen there too, but I don't have that figure, so I can't compare finished product. Lining all three up, I initially thought that they changed the midsection with the wires, but I think it's just posed different, where you can see different parts. So other than that, it comes down to this is going to be a shinier gold, maybe closer to the Bandai model kit, again to represent that awards ceremony at the end. Once again, pulling it off the shelf, I'd forgotten how big this figure actually is. It has quite a bit of height on Luke, but then my favorite, the Hasbro Black Series Amazon exclusive Fall Apart C-3PO that came with Chewbacca, it comes off as slightly short. So again, pick your poison, pick your preference, money-wise, size-wise, shine-wise, and then even sculpt-wise. I will say, looking at the SH Figuarts C-3PO's face, it almost has a surprised look. Again, going back to that Stormtrooper thing where you can tell something is slightly off, but you can't quite pinpoint what's wrong with it. C-3PO, no denying that, but just slightly whip. Then finally there's Darth Vader, who to me is always the hardest to tell when there's changes made. It wasn't until I was hardcore action figure collecting that I realized just how different the Darth Vader suits are from movie to movie. Once again, going back to the first SH Figuarts release, come on, they were young. They were just getting into the Star Wars license. I'm gonna mess up the release dates here again. I don't remember which came first, A New Hope Vader or Return of the Jedi Vader. I wanna say it's A New Hope, with the cloth cape and rubber underrobes, but fantastic sculpt overall. I want to say A New Hope was first because I think that cape was kind of cumbersome. It was kind of big. It just kind of laid there. And then they improved it with Return of the Jedi, along with a new helmet sculpt and some slight changes here and there. Then along came the Obi-Wan Kenobi series Darth Vader, and everybody was, oh, this is the best Bandai Vader they've put out. I was late in the game in that. I don't remember why. I think at the time it was just like, okay, I have enough Vaders. I don't need any more. But then I ended up getting it anyway. I didn't actually open it until this weekend, yesterday, when I was comparing pictures and everything, because I think the newest, the reissue Vader, is complete reuse of the Obi-Wan Vader. All the sculpt looks the same. The only big difference is that the robes are over the armor. Taking the promo image for this reissue and comparing it to the promo image of the Obi-Wan Kenobi Darth Vader, I like the robes on the Obi-Wan Kenobi Darth Vader better. Until I opened the figure yesterday. There I realized that, oh, that was also changed from promo image to final product. The new image has the cape kind of riding up and bulky a bit, and the stitching is very obvious, whereas the Obi-Wan promo image is very sleek, lays over the shoulders. It's thin looking, almost like there wasn't wire to certain places, but then you look at the factory figure, and yeah, the seams are there, it's bulky. In fact, only having it open for the past 24 hours or so, I'm gonna say that they overdid the cape. And maybe even the underrobe. Too many wires to where you're fighting it. It becomes its own entity, its own thing, and it takes away from the figure. I mean, the Darth Vader design itself is busy as all hell. The helmet, the chest box, the suit, the armor pieces, the cloth, the different sheens, shiny, matte. You get to the cape, it's almost a relief when it lays flat and just kind of drapes. It offsets some of that. When I was messing with the Obi-Wan Vader yesterday, it was just like, it's flowing here, I gotta bunch this up, I gotta twist this and stick it around, and it's taken away, visually, from Darth Vader himself. So I think I'm actually in the market for a third-party cape that'll just lay there. I'm all about dynamic posing when it comes to pictures and everything, but when he's standing there, just looking like a badass, I want that to drape. I want that to lay down. Also, the Obi-Wan Vader seems to be slightly shorter than the Return of the Jedi version for some reason. I find the Return of the Jedi more imposing. That's been my main shelf Vader for a good long time now. Hopefully, they backed off the wires a bit here, even though it does look... But I think the only real big difference is the underrobe coming over the armor. There's also some Hasbro drops that happened after the rewind. In fact, these Amazon exclusives dropped while we were sleeping last night. It was kind of weird. I woke up to, hey, look at this. The first is a reissue of Emperor Palpatine with Throne. I want to say that was an Amazon exclusive back 5 years or so, but I also seem to remember it going fairly fast. But that's relying on my memory. You can't always do that. Hell, I can't always do that. Sometimes I'll say stuff and be like, what the hell am I talking about? We talked about Darth Sidious during the last rewind, where I love the rubber hood, but then the cloth goods for the robe. This is why. You see it? The hood just does, even with the wires, it just doesn't want to lay natural. It doesn't look like this. So that would have been a cool update, but at the same time, just reissuing this for slightly more than the original price from 5 years ago, or 6 or 10 or 80, whatever, that is cool. This gets this into people's hands that missed it the first go round. Yeah, the throne is a little small, and again, the robes get a little cumbersome in places, but the updated photo reel to the faces, oh man, they did change the packaging though, so there is a way to differentiate the original from the re-release, in case you're into boxes or that kind of thing. The other Amazon drop is a Jedi Survivor Droid 3-pack, and I am not going to complain if Hasbro wants to milk the hell out of that Super Battle Droid mold, because I'm here for it. Again, I think we talked about it during the rewind. This is the best droid they've released in a long, long time. It's solid, it's sturdy, it's posable, it's imposing, it looks great on the shelf. You pose it, you throw it down, ba-ba-boom. And a rocket arm? Come on, look at that thing. That's pretty sweet. I'm changing it up already. It comes with the blast effect we just saw with the single carded release, and a rocket arm. Not to mention the cool paint job, adding some color. I like the straight up gray with gunmetal, but man, that chipped paint job with the reds, and I'm having a look at it right here because I woke up and thought, I need to talk about Star Wars today. There's also a battle droid, which I don't find as impressive these days, because, man, translating that design from movie to action figure seems like it'll be tough, because it's so thin in places, and that comes across in the final product, because it can be kind of floppy, gangly, especially when one leg's longer than the other. I don't recognize the trash axe like different pieces. I don't know if cutting steak or sawing logs or doing something. It may have come with a previous release, but I don't keep up with the video games. But the paint job does change it up quite a bit, so maybe I'm trying to talk myself into this because of the Super Battle Droid, but that's okay. Because I also don't have a Magna Guard, and that's completely because I haven't heard great things about that figure. Again, it's thin in places on top of being loose, so from what I heard, I can't speak to that. I don't have one. In fact, when I saw the accessory, I had to go looking at old pictures because I seem to remember something more solid. But I think the original release also came with the one with the clear tubes on the end. The only new thing here is the paint job and maybe the scarf hoodie thing. Is it a different shape than the original release somehow? I know it's a different color, for sure. So it dips down, but man, Super Battle Droid. At $70, less than single card releases each, that's tempting too. So yeah, there's a long-winded look at some of the pictures that came out after the last rewind. And since it's Star Wars, I had to do it. Hope you don't feel like I wasted your time, but to me, it actually locked me in for a few things, and then I talked myself out of a couple other things. But I'm not gonna say them here because then I have to turn around when I review the figures and go, well, once they actually release, I changed my mind. I said I wasn't gonna do it, but I did. This helps me process. Getting in front of the camera, rambling, see what comes out. So I appreciate you taking the time to listen to me try to talk myself into and out of action figure purchases. Thank you. Now, Bandai, you're not gonna put up the full solicitations for those 4 figures before this comes out, right? Hopefully. How about, oh man, it would be awesome if I went through all this, it posted, gave it a couple days, Bandai releases, or puts up pre-orders, and then I can talk about it again on the rewind. It's win-win. Star Wars all month. Woo!